Nothing like an impending road trip or deadline to get those little jobs finished on your car. I've been driving the Merc at night for a few days now and discovered that my gauges don't actually light up. So to take them out on a 123, you have to remove this kick panel and just basically push them out from behind. Done that, disconnected the battery first because that can play havoc with your clock and other electrics if you don't. And looking at my bulbs here, they're looking pretty black and pretty knackered. So I've got to, on a click and collect, a local Motor Factors place, £1.18 for the pair. We are departing in T-minus 36 hours. So I need to go there, get those, hope this works, and if not, just pray we don't have to drive at night. But first, our friends at Lancaster Insurance are running monthly giveaways. You can win all sorts, from experience days to tools, restaurant vouchers and tech. So check the video description for full details and to enter. Right, thanks to my Fiat Seicento for playing delivery vehicle, new bulbs have been acquired, so all I've got to do is refit them in the gauge cluster and then reconnect the battery and see if it works.
You join us at the top secret Grover car storage facility. And our project today is not the Xantia. It may look like it's just been dragged out of a barn. That's because my street is really dusty. We are here instead to deal with what is behind this door to get it ready for the Classics World road trip to Yeovil. My 1988 2CV6 Dolly, which has been here for must be a good 7 months, 8 months. This car is really good when it comes to sitting and just firing up again. So I have a battery, the battery's not in it, the battery's been on charge for a couple of days, so I'm expecting, if this car was on its usual form, to just put the battery in, prime the fuel system, it'll start right up and I can take it to the MOT station, it'll fly through an MOT and then on to Yeovil. Probably do with a bit of a top up, but it's between the marks. One habit that this car has is that when it's sat for a while, all the fuel evaporates from the carburettor and drains back to the tank, which meant that it needs a lot of cranking. But I have since fitted a fuel pump with a manual priming handle. That has been 12 strokes on the priming pump. It was starting to stiffen up, so it was clearly pulling thing. There's some petrol therefore in the float bowl. Bit of choke, bit of throttle, and second time's a charm. Listen to that snail purr. If snails purr, which they don't. Topped off the oil in the 2CV. A sump full of oil in there, which of course is important on a 2CV because the oil is not only the lubricant but also effectively the coolant, and it is going to be very hot. Why is Citroen using a Leyland Princess? Whenever you go to check the tyres on 2CV, the wheels always stop with the tyre valves up inside the wheel skirt. So I have just picked up the 2CV from the garage where it's been its MOT. Of course it passed, it was never in doubt, it never is. 1500 miles or so in the past year, which frankly isn't good enough. This car deserves better than that. Advisories, the two that really caught my eye were the constant velocity boots, severely deteriorated on both sides. Advisory it got last time when they were only slightly deteriorated, and I actually bought a new pair, and that was on the to-do list. I never got round to it, so I asked the garage if they would put them on before I picked it up, which they did. Basically just needs some fuel. It also certainly needs to go into summer mode. You can tell how long it's been since I last used it because it's still got its radiator blind on. That can come off for a start. What's the point of having a 2CV if you do not pop the roof back? Fuel stop, then Yeovil.
So it's now quite a lot later, as you can see, and I've had a bit of a mare with the 123, to be honest. I changed both brand new bulbs, put them in, checked they worked, and still the gauges would not light up. And I've been diagnosing all kinds of stuff. I've looked at the switch, I've even tested the wiring, tested the voltage for that. That's all working fine. It's looked like it could either be an issue with the gauge cluster or even with the rheostat, which causes the switch for the headlights to actually put the light on in the gauge cluster. And none of that is fixable cheaply or easily, let alone before we head off for our road trip. However, I then discovered, you see that little knob there, which is primarily for resetting your trip if you push it in. There we go, headlights are on, you can see there. No, you'll notice gauges are not lit up. However, if I just twiddle the little knob clockwise a bit, That's right. Turns out they were never broken in the first place. I just turned the brightness all the way down. Well done, Joe. This video is proudly sponsored by Lancaster Insurance. Give them a call on 01480 400 889 for an insurance quote on your classic car. And don't forget to click the link below to enter their latest competition.